It's your boy Jugger, aka the Content Juggernaut. I'm here with a good friend of mine, Lucas, aka Slays. So what's up to people?
What's up, y'all? How you guys doing?
And we are here to bring you guys a very fun video. This is going to be that same trend I'm sure you guys have seen all over social media with start one, bench one, cut one. So it's generally just 3 players. You start one, you bench one, and you cut one. And that's just like kind of the way people are using to evaluate the talent. So the better guy, you start. The guy you think somewhat in the middle, you bench, and then the guy at the end, you cut. But due to the fact that you're like cutting a player just sounds so dramatic, it really does make so many people get riled up. Like, you're cutting Ray Allen or you're cutting Klay Thompson. There's lots of varying opinions on this, so I thought it was a very fun thing to do, especially because me and my boy Lucas here, we love talking basketball. So I thought this was a fun way to get opinions flowing, get that discussion flowing that we already always have. So yeah, if you guys end up enjoying this video, make sure you guys do thumbs up the video, as well as comment in the comment section below. We want to hear your opinions, even if you're ridiculing everything we say. We'd love to hear that. We'll love to go back and forth with you guys. It'll be tons of fun. So do whatever you guys want. And if you guys do turn up on that like button, if we get 15 likes, me and this guy will try to come back together for another video this week, if you guys can hit that goal for us. But either way, let's get to explaining how we're kind of going to go about this, because there is a little bit of different dynamics than what you're typically used to. Because of the fact that this type of video has been done a ton. Go to YouTube, search start one, bench one, cut one. It's been done a lot already. This has been a thing apparently since like 2 years ago, if not even further back than that. So plenty of YouTubers have already done that. So I thought, let's spice it up. Let's add a little bit of spice to this. And the way that I came up with doing that is by doing duos instead of just doing single player. This should be a lot of fun. And once again, if you guys enjoy the video, make sure you show us that love by hitting that like button, going into the comment section, and also subscribing to the channel if you haven't already, because you don't want to miss out on more content that I make with this guy. But all right, so let's just get started. The first one that we do have underway is going to be already extremely controversial, and some very hot names in the NBA right now as far as young talent around the league. So the first little one we got going is going to be Zion Williamson and Brandon Ingram. In the second section, we do got John Morant and Jaren Jackson Jr. And in that final section, we got John Collins and Trae Young. So lots of really talented young players right now. And I feel like all of these guys have such strong supporters already, and Trae Young, John Morant, and Zion, just people who freaking like think all those guys are all going to be amazing talents eventually in the league, and possibly even Hall of Famers. So I'm gonna let Lucas start this one. I'm a little all over the place. I'm gonna let him start this one.
Well, my first instinct is always to just roll with Zion no matter what. I mean,
okay.
He's just one of the best rookies I have ever seen, and I think the stats always back that up too.
Okay.
But I am a very big John Morant and Jaren Jackson Jr. fan. I think it helps to have a very good defensive player on your team.
Yeah.
And I think Zion has the potential to be a good defender. It hasn't translated to the NBA quite yet. I mean, it could still happen, you know.
A couple blocks here and there, highlight reel blocks.
Games. Yeah, exactly. Yeah. Man to man, sometimes he loses man, sometimes.
Agreed.
You know, it happens.
Yeah.
Brandon Ingram, though, I don't think he's the best defender, which kind of hampers him. I love offensive players, but me personally, I love a two-way player. Jaren Jackson Jr. fits that perfectly. Small ball 5, which is exactly what the league needs right now. 3-point shooter, and he's a very good 3-point shooter. And then Ja is amazing. I mean, I'm a Russell Westbrook fan. I know Jeremy's not the biggest Russell Westbrook fan, but reminds me a lot of him, but with a shot. So, yeah, I think I'm going to have to go starting with Ja Morant, Jaren Jackson Jr., I'm going to have to bench Zion, unfortunately, and Brandon Ingram. And then just Trae and John Collins, it's just not enough defense for me. I mean, they're both very gifted offensive players. I mean, Trae's one of the best at setting up teammates and a great shooter, but I think he was dead last in the league last year in defensive plus minus or real, whatever it is. He's a very bad defender is what I'm saying. And John Collins is also not the best defender. He also has shown potential because he's athletic, which is always good for a big guy, but just hasn't translated yet. So yeah, unfortunately, I'm gonna have to cut them as well. But
all right. Well, your opinion was so like well thought out and very well explained. So let me see if I can muster something up to come with that. So pretty much for me, I actually reciprocate a lot of those sentiments that were just said by Lucas. That I really do think that sometimes Jaren Jackson Jr. is actually overlooked, especially in this year. Everyone was hyping him up last year because they didn't have John Morant yet, and then they got Ja, and Ja was making all these highlight reel plays, and it kind of took a lot of the steam that Jaren Jackson Jr. had already built from the previous year and just went all into John Morant, and honestly somehow made people think he's a worse player from what I've noticed when I see conversations. However, though, I really do think, because for me, when I'm doing these ones, I'm factoring in current skill and potential. And I do think that the potential's all there for Brandon Ingram to be a good defender, and I think he will reach that point. I know he's not there yet. I know he still has a lot to work on that side of on that end of the floor, but I feel like he's at the point where he's finally reached his offensive game has really reached that really high point, that now it's really time for him to focus on the defensive end. And I think if he, I don't know for certain, but I do think that he's really going to spend some time working out on that defensive end of his game. And for that reason, I do think he's going to be able to get to that point where he is a very solid two-way player. And then Zion, I agree, he does lose his man. You see the highlight reel blocks, and so many people see they either see stats, they see blocks on the stat sheet and think someone's a good defender, or they see stills like Trae Young and think they're a good defender. But stats lie all the time. Zion does have a lot to work on that end as well. But it was just year one, and I feel like it was such a weird year one for him that with a full off season, if he gets, I don't know what's going on with this coronavirus lockdown type thing, but if he gets a full off season, I do think he'll be able to figure out a lot on the defensive end of the game, and he'll be able to really start to show that he can be a terror on that side of the basketball. So for that reason, by the slightest edge, I'm gonna put Zion and Brandon Ingram above John Morant and Jaren Jackson Jr. And then from there, it gets a lot easier after everything he already said. I don't even need to go into much detail. John Morant and Jaren Jackson Jr. are going to be the two that I bench, and then the two that I cut are going to be Trae Young and John Collins. And once again, John Collins, stretch four. He can do a lot of things on the floor, but defensively, there's a reason why the Hawks just can't seem to win games. They just let everyone score more points than them. And obviously, Trae Young, we all know Trae Young. He doesn't, not only does he not have the physique, it just also seems like he's not really concerned enough about that. Recently saw a tweet where he was all focused on James Harden's new offensive moves, and it was like, you need to start focusing on that end of the basketball, defense, because you're more than exceptionally good on offense. Let's focus on defense. So that's how that first one's gonna go. Let's move on to the next one. So this next one's very steamy. This is obviously one of the biggest debates in the NBA right now, with three of the titans of the NBA, and LeBron James, Kawhi Leonard, and Giannis Antetokounmpo.
Happy to say it.
Exactly. I'm not even going to try throughout this video. Not even going to try. You guys can clown me. It's all good. But yeah, anyways, one of the biggest debates right now is who is the best in the NBA out of these three guys, and LeBron, Kawhi, and Giannis. But once again, that debate has been done plenty of times, so I thought let's add a little bit more spice into it, and that's why we added in duos, and now we got LeBron and Anthony Davis, Kawhi Leonard and PG, or Giannis and Chris Middleton. And that adds a lot. That makes it, in my opinion, that actually makes it a little easier than it would if they were separated as individuals, because as individuals there's just so many different things that you can use as reasons to support why any one of these three guys is better than the other when it comes to LeBron, Kawhi, and Giannis. But when you add in, as for me, easily, when you add in Chris Middleton and Giannis, it automatically makes that the worst of the three, in my opinion, just because Chris Middleton's not the player PG is, and he's not the player Anthony Davis is. So that makes that so much easier than it would otherwise. So then let's focus on those two. So LeBron and Anthony Davis, or Kawhi Leonard and Paul George. For me, the only reason why I can make this claim without feeling it's too controversial, that for me it is somewhat easy to go LeBron and AD, is just because the amount of time that PG and Kawhi Leonard have been on the floor together. I think chemistry is such a huge thing, and I just don't think they've been on the floor enough for them to be the better of these two duos. LeBron and AD have been working on it. They've been spending time together. I think all that goes so much into being dynamic when it comes to being on the same page, knowing where they want the ball and all that. I think that all just matters so much. And PG and Kawhi just haven't been able to do that in real games enough, in my opinion, because of the load management with Kawhi, and then PG coming back from the injury he sustained over the offseason. So, or he sustained in the postseason, my apologies. So yeah, for that reason. And then also, I also factor in playoff performances too. And I know Anthony Davis doesn't have a lot of playoff prowess to him, but in recent, Paul George is amazing in the regular season, and when he was on the Pacers, he had an amazing run in the playoffs. But I've been a little bit on him since then as far as playoff production, and that also kind of knocks him a little notch lower from Anthony Davis, in my opinion, as well. But there was times even at this year that I felt Anthony Davis was putting up stats, but he wasn't impacting the game nearly in the same way LeBron was. And once again, people will use stats all day to diminish someone else's effectiveness or another, or to hype up someone's effectiveness. And there was plenty of games where I watched Anthony Davis, and it just seemed some games seemed a little off. So it still is just by, like, once again, this is by the slightest of margins. I'm going to put LeBron and Anthony Davis over Paul George and Kawhi Leonard, just because of the amount that those two mainly have played together. That's my only real reason. I just feel like I have a little bit more comfortability in saying that that's the better of the duo than Kawhi and Paul George. But once again, slimmest of margins, not by a lot.
I'm very inclined to agree, and this is a tough one. Oh my gosh.
Yeah, it really is.
Unfortunately, I mean, I love Chris Middleton. He's a killer. He'll take anyone one-on-one. He's kind of a throwback player in a lot of senses, I think, from what the NBA used to be.
And that shot is butter.
It's disgusting.
Yeah.
I mean, yeah, and his handles have gotten a lot better.
Oh, yeah,
His
they really
defense
have.
is disgusting.
Yeah,
but
he's a really good defender.
But once again, I mean, he's the sixth best player that's on this screen right now. And while Giannis might be the best, I just think because it's duos, you got to have a good running mate. So unfortunately, I'm going to have to cut them as well. And between these two, man, it's just so close for me. I mean, if the Lakers and Clippers even went to the Western Conference semifinals, hopefully it'll resume at some point.
Yeah.
I don't even know who I would pick. I think it would probably go to 7, and I don't even know who I would pick coming out of it. I mean, it's just so close and so tough.
Yeah.
I think because it's so close for me, I got to look at what the NBA is about recently anymore, at least, and it's 3 and D. I think the better shooters and the better defenders you're going to find in Paul George and Kawhi Leonard. I mean, yes, Anthony Davis and LeBron can both shoot, and they're both amazing. LeBron's defense has definitely gotten a little worse as he's aged. I think he's kind of paid a lot more attention to his offensive side of the game, which I can respect. I mean, good luck getting through a backcourt with Kawhi and Paul George. Those are two. I mean, you can build a player, and they're going to match those two's description, that you want to be a great defender. So, I mean, I think they just get by through the slightest margins for me just because, yeah, you can't get past them, and then offensively, they're just so gifted as well. And then actually, I'm going to have to agree with Jeremy here. I think a lot of times the stats do lie with Anthony Davis, because I would watch a lot of Lakers games this year. Unfortunately, I'm not a Lakers fan, but my roommate is, and I think it's nice to just kind of keep up with the hype a lot of times in the season. So I've watched a good amount of Lakers games. Anthony Davis gets his for sure, but a lot of times he doesn't take the best shots in the most crucial of moments. Turnaround shots, when he's like on the elbow or on the baseline. He's a big guy. He's got a lot of times they play him at the 5, and if he's at the 4, he's a mismatch, and he's still kind of taking bailout shots for me. And I don't know, with a guy as talented as he is, that's just, for me, I don't like to watch that personally.
He doesn't play physical enough at times.
Yeah. And he's a finesse player for sure.
Yeah,
I mean, he's got a good
overly
touch.
Finessive at times.
Exactly. Yeah. I mean, look at his arms. I mean, he's an athletic freak, and you just don't always see that when you watch them play NBA games. So, for me, I'm going to have to go Paul George and Kawhi Leonard. But, man, this is one of the toughest ones.
Same for me. So I feel like you can go either way. Mm-hmm. It's funny that we, on both of these very controversial ones, we've been flip-flop. We've been going with the other one. But, hey, it just shows how close these are, and that really the talent in the NBA really is at a really awesome place right now. Moving on to our next one, we get into some more star players. And this one gets a little controversial because here's how I'm at least going to evaluate this, and I also think my boy Lucas will do the same, is that for players that are currently injured, we are not going to evaluate it as if they're going to come back fully healthy or perfect or just at the same level. We're going to go into it as if we're the GM of the team right now, not knowing that they're going to go back fully healthy. Who out of these duos would we still want on our team right now? And that's how we're going to do it, not based on any hypothetical, if he comes back perfect. No, because you don't know that. And that's what the Brooklyn Nets are dealing with right now with Kevin Durant. They don't know if he's going to come back fully healthy, but they still went on the limb and went and traded for him because they know if he does, he's Kevin Durant. So that's how we're going to base this. So for this one, we do got Joel Embiid and Ben Simmons coming from the 76ers. We got Kyrie Irving and KD on the Brooklyn Nets, and then obviously the notorious duo of James Harden and Russell Westbrook on the Rockets. And I'll start this one too, just because starting off with that previous comment with I don't like Russell Westbrook. I honestly I don't. I will admit that I don't. I don't like his decision making at times. I don't like that it felt like he prioritized stats over winning at times. And then I also don't like that people generally like to say he's this great player because of the whole triple-double thing, when once again stats can often lie. And I do think, sadly, Russell Westbrook is one of the best cases for that stats lie, because there was often times where he'd have those enormous stats, but the team wasn't performing that well. But not to the extent of some other players who we'll get into, like Devin Booker. So let's get into it. So for me, this one's actually not that hard for me, and it's mainly just because a little bit of my personal bias makes it not that hard for me. Right away, I don't really like Westbrook, so that already kind of knocks them down a little bit. And then I also think that at the same time, sometimes James Harden also his decision making can be lackluster, especially in the playoffs, and that sometimes he mentally seems to be inferior to other stars in the league at times. Never talent-wise or scoring-wise. And then obviously the whole defense thing, but people overstate that way too much. He's gotten a lot better on defense, and it's been evident in plenty of games. He's gotten a lot better on defense, and he's actually one of the best people at, when someone tries to drive by you and they do get by you, hitting the ball from behind them. He's actually one of the best players at that a lot of people don't ever say anything about, but he is able to knock the ball from behind players more than like a lot of other players. So he's gotten a lot better at defense, even though it's still not the greatest. It's not worth like talking about like it's the worst in the league anymore at all. But I also think James Harden has some pretty glaring flaws when it comes to him being the best player on your team and expecting to win a championship. So for that reason, that knocks them a little bit down. And then I have been a strong believer since the 76ers started to have controversies on their team this season. Not prior to it. I actually, at the start of this NBA season, I actually thought that they were possibly the strongest case to win, to come out of the East. But after their issues started to happen, it just kind of proved that I don't think Joel Embiid and Ben Simmons are the best teammates personally. I don't think their games complement each other that well, and I'm not sure that you can win with those two as your like best players. I think it just clashes more than it works. And then I also think that they didn't do themselves any favors when it came to how they were talking to the media as well. So I do think there's a little bit of immaturity there that also needs to be factored in when it comes to how good you think these guys are. Being a leader really matters, and it often gets understated when it comes to evaluating talent. I'm not sure I think either of them are the best leaders. So for that reason, I'm gonna start KD and Kyrie, even though I really dislike Kyrie. I think Kyrie has made a lot of mistakes recently in the media as far as being a leader. The whole situation with Cleveland. But he's so talented offensively. He's an offensive juggernaut. But at times it's not for the best of the team. But I think with him going back to a Robin position, in my opinion, which will happen when KD comes back, I think he will be fine in that role. And I think he'll excel in that role. So for that reason, I'm going to have to go with KD and Kyrie. And obviously, I'm not going to hypothetically say that KD's going to come back fully healthy, but I do believe he will. And or at least somewhat healthy, like on like 3/4 healthy, and even that good of a KD is honestly somewhat at the same level as the rest of the talent here. So yeah, I'm gonna go with KD and Kyrie starting. I'm gonna go with Russell Westbrook and James Harden benched, and then Ben Simmons and Joel Embiid will be the ones getting cut.
Interesting. Okay.
Yeah.
Well, I might sound like I'm going to contradict myself because the duo I'm going to start is definitely not the best defensively. I'll just go out and say that. And I agree with Jeremy. I think a lot of times Harden gets a lot of flack for not being a good defender. And rightfully so. They'll put out the videos, the Shaq ton of fools, and it's like, wow, he just stuck his arm out. He didn't do anything else. And it's like, yeah, when you look at that, it's hard to not say he's a bad, or it's hard to, not say he's a bad defender. But recently, yeah, he definitely seems to be a little more committed to playing good defense. And he's not a washer anymore. It's tougher to get by Harden anymore. And like you said, if he gets beat off the dribble, he's not going to give up anymore. He's going to go and try and get that ball still. He's definitely improved a lot in that respect. Westbrook gambles a lot. He just
so much.
Yeah, he gets a lot of steals sometimes because he's athletic, and sometimes the gamble does pay off. Way
faster than people expect.
Exactly, but at the same time, he puts his team in a lot of bad positions because of how often he does gamble. So it's not always the best strategy. With all that aside, I'm definitely gonna have to start them, and I think I'm doing that based off a small sample size, which isn't always the best idea. But man, once they got rid of Capella and they started going small ball, that unlocked a whole game of Westbrook, and he was like old Westbrook of the Thunder days, and I love to see that. And I know the potential that he has, and I know how good Harden is offensively. I mean, he's kind of like having a revolution with the NBA, how Curry did. I mean, he's inventing these new dribble moves that people are implementing in their own games. So his offensive game, I just think, is probably the best in the NBA right now. I'm just going to say that. So I think I'm going to have to put them at the top, and that's because of all the uncertainty with the other two duos.
Which is very fair.
And
very fair.
This one is hard for me because I love Joel Embiid, and I love Ben Simmons individually. They're so both good. I think Embiid is in the conversation for definitely best center in the NBA. I mean, there's nothing he really can't do. He, outside of maybe playmaking, he's not always the best dribbler, but even he has some of that he probably can unlock still. Great defender. At least he shoots. He's not the best shooter, but at least he tries and he'll make some of them. So that helps his team out. But that's kind of why is because Ben Simmons doesn't shoot, so he kind of has to shoot. So for that reason, and I love Ben Simmons. He's in today's NBA, you couldn't build another kind of like Paul George, Kawhi type. Guards all 5 positions. I mean, his defense is amazing and his playmaking is amazing, but he's just so limited, I think, outside of transition and playmaking on offense that it's hard. I don't know if he can really be a star player on a championship team, personally. And especially for those two to be on the same team together, I don't think that they can really coexist. So I'm going to have to cut them. And then I'm not the biggest Kyrie fan. I loved Kyrie in Cleveland, man. He was so good. And I agree with Jeremy. I think when he gets put into that sidekick position, that Robin position, he excels a lot more. But those two, Kevin Durant and Kyrie, are ball dominant. I don't think that... I mean, Kevin Durant definitely passes, and I'm sure playing with the Warriors probably helps you get that mentality of, let's move the ball around to find the best shot.
Ball movement,
yeah, big time. But he's not a LeBron when it comes to playmaking, or even, being a good teammate when it comes to sharing the ball on offense. So I don't know. I just don't know how they're going to coexist. We have yet to see. And then the injury is a big thing for me. I mean, I know how committed he is to basketball. I'm sure he's really getting his body ready to get back out there and be as good as he used to be.
That modern medicine.
Exactly. I mean, well, you know what I'm saying?
Oh, my.
But, man, he had skinny legs to begin with, and Achilles injuries are the worst when it comes to, getting back to where you used to be, especially in the NBA when you're jumping up and down all the time. So I don't know. I'm going to have to... I'm gonna bench them, but that's just such a big what if to me, an iffy situation for me right now.
Dependent on other variables.
Yeah, so we'll see. But yeah, I think that's what I'm gonna have to roll with.
And then you're cutting Embiid and Simmons.
Yep.
So okay, we get into another one, and this one is super spicy as well. Who has the best sidekick out of all these three? Because I feel like you can argue that any of these three guys are better than the other in Jokic, Jason Tatum, and Luka. But who has the best sidekick? And that's where it's going to get interesting because I'm a Mavericks fan and he's a Nuggets fan. So our personal bias is going, we're going to try our best to set it aside, but you know how hard that is. You know how hard it is. Got love for my boys. I got lots of love. And I've had to deal with a lot of hating too. My brother's a huge Porzingis hater. So it's hard to not want to vouch for him any chance I can get. But anyways, let's get to it. So for me, and I'll actually let you start one because I started the last two, so you can start this one.
I'm actually surprised my bias is not going to play any role in this at all.
Oh, wow.
Because I watch them so much. If this were just individual players, this would be much harder for me to say. But, okay, I guess I'll start with my team. Jokic, I mean, this will show my bias. I think he's the best center in the NBA. And I think that's, a lot of people might agree with that.
I don't think that's bias.
Okay, I think it's kind of between him and
just
Joel
because
Embiid,
I think that when it comes to evaluating all the centers in the league, the best ones, what sets Jokic aside is the fact that he can shoot, he can score in the basket, he can back you down, he can do all those things those other guys can do, but then he passes better than all of them, and that's not a skill the rest of them have. He can literally be a point guard if he wasn't that tall. So yeah, exactly. He still is. Yeah, he brings the ball up. He's a point center, if that's a term. So it's just like, at the end of the day, that skill makes him better than every other center to me. So I'm going to say that that's not biased. But continue.
Okay. I just thought, it's my team. I'll acknowledge it if it is true. But that's my opinion. I think he's definitely the best center in the NBA. And if I had to pick individual players out of this, it would definitely be a toss-up between he and Luka.
Yeah.
But you're looking at sidekicks here. I love Jamal Murray. I have his jersey. I got his jersey over Jokic's. Don't ask me why. I love Jamal Murray still. But man, he is hot and cold. He's kind of J.R. Smith-esque in a way. I mean, he can win them games. Yeah, up and down. But he can also lose you games, and that was a perfect example. Was last year in the playoffs. I mean, the games where he erupted, they looked like they could take down almost anyone, even the Warriors. Excuse my bias again, but the games when he even was going like 5 for 12, he kind of shot us out of the games. So I think I'm gonna have to actually cut Jokic and Murray, and then this is tough between these two. I know. This is tough because, like you said, you look at the sidekicks. I mean, Kemba, he's older, so I think he has that experience with him as well. But he's clutch, and he's a great shooter. He's a smart player, though. He doesn't make many mistakes. He takes good shots. He doesn't turn the ball over, which is what you want from a sidekick on your team. And then Porzingis, I think if this was at the beginning of the season, I probably would have cut the Mavericks just because Porzingis was really kind of struggling. I think that's a big injury to come back from, and it's a whole different team and a whole different dynamic you're getting back into.
Yeah, and he was too reluctant to attack the basket.
Yeah,
settling
he was
for outside shots way too much. I was like, wait, who am I even watching?
Aren't you 7'3" or what is this? But man, he really came into his own back. I think it was after the All-Star break. I mean,
especially because Luka went down with the injury, so someone had to step up, and that really allowed him to be forced into that role because he wasn't doing it on his own. So for him being forced into that role, we actually went on a really good win streak while Luka was out, and that just shows how much he was blossoming and finally figuring out how he could be a good player again.
Yeah, exactly. So, yeah, I'm going to take that at face value and say, okay, that's probably what he's going to be going forward. At least we all hope so. I mean, I'm not a Mavericks fan. I wouldn't even say I root for him. But, man, you always hope for the best with NBA basketball, I always say. You never want to see anyone regress or get injured. But, and this is hard between these two because Jason Tatum also came into his own. He was looking unstoppable before the season ended. I mean, some of those shots he hit and like the stats he was putting up were ridiculous, and he's such a good defender too. Not saying Luka really isn't, but I think he's a better defender than Luka
easily.
But I think I'm gonna have to actually start the Mavericks just because Luka is such a generational talent. I think he's definitely in the MVP conversation this year, and that's just the first of many that he's going to be a part of. And then I think sidekick wise, you can't get any better than a 7'3" shooter who can play the 4 and do everything that Porzingis does. I mean, I love Kemba Walker, but he's older and he's more limited. He's not a great defender. I don't know. I think, yeah, he's limited when it comes to what he can do. So, yeah, I think I'm going to have to start the Mavericks, bench the Celtics, and then cut my boys.
Oh, no! All right, for me, I'm actually, this is going to be the first one where we have the exact same one, and honestly, his argument helps persuade me because I was actually leading towards Jason Tatum and Kemba Walker just because of the fact that team performance, their team has been performing better, but when I thought about it more, it's also because they have better pieces. Jaylen Brown's a lot better than the third player on the Mavs. Yeah, he's a lot better than the third player on the Mavs by a decent bit. He's a decent bit better than Tim Hardaway Jr. and Seth Curry. And then when you also factor in the rest of their team, they got plenty of other guys who just bring so much to the table on that team. Marcus Smart, one of the best defenders in the league. Like, they have a lot. Yeah. Gordon Hayward, another player that we'll get into. They have so many really talented players that you just really can't undervalue how good their whole team meshes together as opposed to how good these two are just together. And his explanation really helped me kind of focus in more on that. So for that reason, I'm going to do the same thing without going into too many details. I'm going to start Luka and Porzingis. I agree, 7'3" guy who can shoot and dunk on people, ridiculous. And then Luka, yes, I do agree that he's a generational talent, and that the fact that he's already this good at the age he is, just the ceiling is through the roof. And then obviously the other thing that was making me kind of lean off that was the defensive side, because I do think Tatum is a decent bit better of a defender. But those two together, I think if Luka can get so much better on defense, but even when he does slip, if Porzingis can get back to where he was, he can make up for a lot of Luka's defensive efficiencies and really kind of patch those up by being just such a dynamic duo together offensively and defensively. So yeah, I'm going to bench Jason Tatum and Kemba and then cut Jamal Murray and Jokic, which hurts to do for me too because I love those guys, and I also think Jokic is so much better than a lot of people give him credit for. But at the end of the day, that's what these ones are doing to us. These are so hard.
We're talking about the coaches in here: Rick Carlisle, Brad Stevens, and Mike Malone.
Oh
Good
my
God.
gosh, yeah, such
That'd
good
be another
coaches.
hard one to do.
Oh yeah,
Jeez.
coaches. Dang, we may need to do a coach one. Nah, you guys
That'd be
wouldn't.
good
The
one.
only like 5 of you guys would know what coaches are.
Yeah, true.
So that's gonna be the end of this video, guys. I had no clue that we were gonna spend this much time on all these. We have so much more to do. So like I said, if you guys can get this video to 15 likes, we will be throwing out all the other parts of this video. I hope you guys, we'll just be throwing them all out. Just like, get you a video, get you a video, get you a video. I'm Oprah with the videos, just kidding. That's why I'm the content juggernaut. No, I'm just kidding. But anyways, though, thank you guys for watching. Really do appreciate it. Let me know if you guys enjoyed having this guy on the channel. Definitely will bring him back. That's one of my good friends. Definitely enjoy talking basketball with this guy because hearing his opinion always helps me even formulate a better, well thought out opinion. So yeah, so I super appreciate him taking the time out of his day to be here. I appreciate you guys taking the time out of your day to watch the video. And yeah, we can bring a lot more of this to the channel as long as you guys show support. That will be the key factor. We got to get some support on this channel so we can ensure that we're actually making a little bit of ground here in this huge YouTube world. But either way, thanks for watching. Leave a like if you enjoyed the video. Comment below what you thought of our opinions. Which ones was the worst? Let us know who's saying the most BS. Let us know. But yeah, and subscribe if you aren't already subscribed, because this isn't the only content. Lots of other stuff's gonna go on this channel. Woo! Lots of other stuff's gonna go on this channel. So just sit back, relax, and watch these videos. Got a lot of stuff for you guys. But thanks for watching. See you guys in the next one. For now, deuces.
Peace out.